Nate G 219 to help it back better. Y'all know what it is. Another one coming at you. First, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that channel if you want to help out. It's August 18th, and it's probably about 5 o'clock, 5:30 p.m. It's irrelevant. Today, I'm going to be bringing you a story about a man that, took one of them wrong turns at a very young age. So, it is a pretty detailed story. I've been working on it for a little more than a month, and it's just a lot of detail, and I do not want to get anything wrong because I've been talking to this man now for the better part of a year, and we've been communicating, and I've been wanting to tell his story, and he's had some very, very, very deep tragedies since he was incarcerated. Now, Ranman, he was born in July of 1971. I do have some notes here that I'm going to be reading off of. I'm not going to be reading a script or anything, but if I have to look, you know what, get over it. I'm sorry. I'm going to do the best I can. It's a deep story, and this is just the story of what led this man to become incarcerated and be incarcerated since 1989. Just a majority of it. So, yeah, born July 1971, Randall Ranman Richards. Alright? Now, I don't have a whole lot to tell you about his childhood other than he didn't grow up with a lot of money or anything like that. He grew up in Indianapolis, and 70s, 80s, Indianapolis, just like many cities. A lot of poverty, a lot of drugs, just a lot of things that kids were doing, like, my boy Ariel, like, just a lot of kids at that time running around on BS. And if you remember, this is the same year, same exact county as my boy Ronald Sanford. So, as you know, Ronald was just released last month, so it's time to get this man home too. But on December 18th of 1988, after church, Randy arrived home to find his 28-year-old cousin, 44-year-old aunt, and his 78-year-old grandfather all deceased. And they had all lost their lives. Excuse me, guys, my allergies are killing me. But they had all lost their lives due to carbon monoxide poisoning, the silent killer. And at 17 years old, you're coming home from church to find this. All right? His grandfather was everything to him. I mean, next to his mother, his grandfather was everything. His grandfather got him going to church. I mean, this man was going to church multiple times a week, doing Bible studies and everything. And, giving his life to God. And then he came home one day and, the man he loved the most, no longer there. Didn't even get to say a final word to him. I mean, got to. He just probably doesn't even remember what it was. You remember, he was 17. He came home from church and found his family gone. And, being close with a family member, it doesn't matter who it was, who it is, when you love somebody, like, you remember them like it was yesterday, like I do my mother. Sorry, my dog's trying to drink my water when he's got his own bowl over there. Get out of here, Diesel. But, at 17 years old, dealing with an event traumatic like that, discovering 3 people deceased, let alone family members. Most people in their lifetime don't come across 3 people deceased, let alone 3 family members deceased all at the same time. So you got to think at 17 years old how traumatic that would be. But a few months later, this was like I said, December of '88. Come March of '89, you know, after some self abuse, a lot of partying, some drinking, drugging, trying to drown some sorrows, and March come around, March spring break of '89. Hold time out. Time in. Yeah, spring break of 1989. Just a few months after finding his whole family gone, things did start to look up when a person he knew named Lori had asked him to hang out with my sister, hang out with her sister when she comes. She's coming down from Michigan to visit for spring break. Well, that week, it was the week of love for them. 17 years old, whole future ahead of them. They were in love, and so in love that Randy decided that not only am I in love, I'm gonna get a place. So he went and got himself an apartment, which was a basement that was converted into an apartment. But at 17 years old, he was working 2 jobs. One of making $5.25 an hour, working full time at one of them. The other one part-time Domino's. Still, but he was making money. He was sporting the love of his life, probably his first love. Almost certain his first love. Marcy, though, one day not only left him, like she called him. He got a call, and this is the day before Thanksgiving. All right, they were together up until November. The day before Thanksgiving, he gets a call from Marcy telling him that, I'm out of here. And again, she's 17 years old. They've done really nothing but drink and party. And this is a quote from Ranman. They were drunks. They were drunks that were kids. And late 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of partying. There was a lot of drugs everywhere. And that's just what it was. And as you see, my dog's just running around. Good boy. But, a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, whatever. And Marcy, at that point, had had enough of it. Which... they didn't have the best of relationships. They had a very toxic relationship from what I understand. She liked to beat on him, and his grandfather raised him to never lay his hands on a woman. And, he always honored his grandfather, especially in that fashion. But, so she'd hit him, he'd just start breaking stuff. Like a lot of guys, instead of hitting the woman, we'd rather break a window, whatever. But it didn't change anything. Marcy was gone. But that was the day before Thanksgiving, and he went in on to a couple weeks of just pure hell partying. Until one day, the phone rang. Can you come pick me up? And he was. Diesel. Sorry, guys. My dog's got worse ADHD than I do. But Marcy calls him one day saying, hey, come pick me up, please. Her and her mom had gotten into it, and she wanted to come home to Randy. And the only problem was the last time, well, first of all, part of the damage Randy had caused, he not only broke all the windows out of his car, he lit it up with a bunch of bullet holes, and just not a car you're going to be driving from Indianapolis to anywhere in Michigan in December. Even if it was running, it's filled with bullet holes and it doesn't have windows. You're going to probably freeze to death before you hit 30 minutes into the ride at that time of the year. Especially back then, we used to get a lot colder. But his mom wouldn't let him take the car because the last time he had taken the car, which was also to go get Marcy, he did return the car, but it had no gas in it, and he got a ticket that he didn't tell his mother about. And she's like, "No, you're not taking my car." So this already damaged young man, it put him in this downward spiral. So, like I said, this was the very beginning of December. December 5th comes around, and his crime spree starts. 3-day crime spree. And his first one, he's like, "Man, I gotta get this money." Alright, he lost both those jobs that he had in them couple weeks after Marcy left, just from drinking and drugging, all that. So his downward spiral was going pretty so bad it wasn't even funny. December 5th come around, he's like, "I'm gonna hit this gas station." So went inside this gas station. Less than 5 minutes later, he walked out with over $500. That was more money than he had made in 2 weeks with a full-time and a part-time job. So, light bulbs just going off in his head, just like anybody that had lived in poverty, whatever. Light bulbs going off everywhere. So he knows what he's on. He meets a couple people, and on December 8th, that's just when all hell broke loose. He never had a plan to hurt anybody. He, in fact, said, "Nobody's going to get hurt. I'm not going to hurt anybody." But he was carrying a .357. He had a box of loose shells in each of his pockets. But he decided to go into a pawn shop. He had gotten a couple people to case it out for him, and they said there's only one person in there. That one person is not armed. Well, I don't know if anybody remembers back in the late 80s into the late 90s, especially every pawn shop you went into, especially in Indiana, there were guns. So for anybody that was working there, especially a grown man, he's likely going to be armed. Whether you see the weapon or not, he's going to be able to defend himself. But Randy went into the pawn shop, and after being told there was only one person there, only to find out that there was a customer there talking to the owner of the pawn shop, whose name was Robert Taylor. And so, alright, it was like an L-shaped countertop glass display, just like, you still see them in places today, an L-shape. And the customer was over here talking to Robert Taylor, and Randy was just looking around, and out of nowhere is a woman coming out of the short part of the counter, asking him, "How can I help you?" So him trying to stall for time, he tries to get rid of I think it was a ring that was just a fake ring, or fake gold, cheap gold, whatever. They didn't want it, but he did have a necklace that was real. So he'd taken the necklace off, and he was just really trying to get the customer, wait till the customer left. But she went to weigh the gold, and he said, "Hell with it, it's go time." He pulled out that .357, said, "Get on the ground, this is a robbery." So everybody laid down, but the only person he really wanted to deal with was Robert Taylor. That was the pawn shop owner, and he couldn't see him because Robert Taylor was laying behind the counter. So as he's going towards Robert Taylor, an 8 and a 9-year-old kid come running out from the back. Now pause. I know what y'all think I'm about to say. I'm not about to say that. 8 and 9-year-old come running out. It 180'd right back. So Randy, hold up. told the woman whose name was Nancy, "Hey, go get those kids. Come back out here. Like they're not going to go call the cops on me." Again, Randy was very, very strict on he did not want to hurt anybody. He was afraid. He was scared. At this point in time, all he wanted to do was go and not go to jail. So, as they were coming back, boom, boom! First shot missed him. Second shot hit him in his left leg. And out of a reaction, he squeezed the trigger of that .357 that was in his hand. The bullet bounced, breaking glass, and this is the crime scene examiner's words. Said the bullet that was fired from the .357 struck and ricocheted, striking Robert Taylor in his head, unfortunately taking his life. And although I don't have it written down here, my heart does, I'm not sure exactly how old Mr. Taylor was, but my heart does go out to that man's family. I do feel horrible for any family that has to go through anything like that, especially, you know, the grandkids or stepkids being there to see it. They're scarred for life. Nancy, she's scarred for life. I feel horrible for them. But Randall Richards, A.K.A. Ranman, did take a plea agreement for, it was a 60-year plea agreement for felony murder and an additional, felony murder and robbery, and an additional 10 years for confinement. So 70 years, which meant a mandatory 35 years. Unfortunately, though he's lost time, it's really easy to screw your time off and end up catching new cases. I mean, you have to do what you have to do to survive in prison. And, you know, Ranman, he's saddened every day he has to live with this. And I'm not saying he shouldn't be saddened, because taking another life is not something that's easy to deal with, especially when you don't plan to do it. He knows what he did was wrong. He knows that. There's no doubt in his mind. And he regrets it every day. He regrets his decisions every day. I promise you that. He's now at IYC down in Plainfield, Indiana. That's the last prison I was at. And I'll tell you one thing, that place is pure hell. He's been locked up since 1989. Think about that. When were you born? I know I was born in 81, so he's been locked up since I was 8 years old. I think it's time that this man receive another chance. Just throwing that one out there. But as you see, that's a picture of Ranman on the thumbnail with his cat Cujo. He's just a very, very kind man. Unfortunately, last year he lost his mother. He still has his father, but it's really hard for him to communicate with his father sometimes. Sometimes you're not able to call when time's convenient for the people to receive the call. There's a lot of people that try to call me experience. It's just not the best time. I'm driving, whatever the situation is. Not everybody out here can answer every single phone call every single time. It's just not possible, even if it's paid for. Sometimes we're driving. Hey, we out here trying to help those in there definitely don't like when we're not able to do something right perfectly when somebody needs it to, but we have lives that we have to deal with too. But man, I would like to do anything I can to help this man get out of prison, or at least get looked at, to get a chance to come home a little earlier than his out date. He's still got a few years left, but there's no reason he can't get out. There's no reason. But never forget life's choices, guys. Don't, because, well, wrong choice. could lead to 35, 36 years in the penitentiary. But hey, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that channel if you want to help out. If they ain't hating it, you ain't making this. Nate G219 signing out. Peace.